Hi, I'm Punk Brock, YouTube's premier touring musician slash punk rock guinea pig VTuber thing. And I'm here with the first episode of Post-Tourtem. Now, what is Post-Tourtem, you ask? It's a very clever play on words, you know, post-mortem, post-tour, talking about... I'm talking about a tour that I just did. If you didn't know, I am a professional tour manager, driver, merch manager, tech, anything you want on a tour, I will do. If you pay me, maybe. So I just spent a week with the wonderful Slaughter Beach dog, which you can see the poster for over there. Anyone who's been on tour or been part of a touring party, you will know that not everything goes fine 100% of the time. That's kind of my whole brand. And this tour was no different. So this tour, I was driving the van and I was selling the merch. So if you were at any of these shows and you bought a t-shirt, hey, maybe you bought it from me. So this one actually starts on the 25th of September because I needed to pick up the van, I needed to pick up the gear, and then I needed to pick up the band very early on the 26th. They landed at the airport and I needed to be there at like 7 a.m. However, the person who I hired the van from actually asked me to do another kind of a favor, a paid favor. It's called a job, sweetie, look it up. They asked me to pick up another completely unrelated band at an airport nearby to me the morning of the 25th. So I was told to pick up the van at 7 a.m. I was told this band would be landing at 8 a.m. And so I would be there at like 8:30, 8:40. However, once I picked up the van and contacted the band, I realized there'd been a mistake because they actually landed at 7 a.m. and I was supposed to be there for 8 a.m. And it's Monday morning. There's traffic. Sorry. So I had to just relay that to the band member that I was speaking to. I was like, hey, I'm sorry. It's going to be about 8:30, 8:40 before I can get you. And I get no response. However, what I do get is I get a phone call. And I get a phone call from what I assume is their tour manager, who's not with them, but I think it's one of the most passive-aggressive and patronizing phone calls I've ever received. It's along the lines of, hello, so where did you pick the van up from? Okay. And you're driving to where? And what time did you pick it up? And it didn't cross your mind that you should have done that earlier and that you should have anticipated being there earlier. And I'm just like, my guy, I was told to pick up a van at a specific time, and that's exactly what I did. If you want to blame somebody, blame the guy who asked me to do it. And he kind of backs off a bit and he's like, okay, sure, whatever. But I know from that point that like this isn't going to be the smoothest thing in the world. So I arrive at the airport eventually about 8:45. And I tried to ring the guy that I've been texting with. And I'm like, hey, I'm here. Like, I'll come and get you. Let's get you home as soon as possible. Because look, I don't blame them for being like upset. They've just flown overnight from New York. However, again, not really my fault. But I get there and he picks up the phone and he's just like really short and like doesn't really answer me. And he's like, I'm going to have to call you back. And I'm like, oh, okay. We're not ready to go then? Cool. So the other member of the party rings me back and is like, hey, and he seems super chill. And she's like, hey, yeah, I'm here. Like, do you want to give me a hand with the gear to the van? We'll load it. The other guy has lost his bag. He's left his bag on the luggage carousel, which is great. So he's dealing with that. So me and this other lady, we take the bags into the van and we load the van and it's fine. She's super chill. She's just like, it's fine, you know, whatever. And I'm like, cool. And then when we've just about loaded the van, this other guy turns up and he is like immediately from the offset so standoffish. He does the thing where like he won't make eye contact with me, but he's like ranting at me. He's not like communicating to me. It's like he's been practicing this for like the last hour and 40 minutes. He's been seething and he's just like, this isn't good enough. How could you like, why are you so late? You know, you should have left earlier. And I'm just like taking this all in stride. And I'm just like, hey, if it makes you feel better to shout at me, that's fine. But none of this is my fault. I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to deflect blame, but I've been told to be blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. I just have to watch him like pathetically try and throw this like huge guitar case in the back, like in a huff, like angrily tried to throw this, but he's like, no, it's heavy and he can't like do it. So I'm just like, do you want a hand aggressively throwing that in to prove a point? But we get him in and he's just like, I just don't talk to him again. It's fine. We drop him off. He's gone within like 30 minutes. He's home, sleepy in bed, I'm sure. That's unrelated. That is prologue. I then have to just drive to a hotel near the airport that I'm picking Slaughter Beach Dog up from. And that's super chill. That's very uneventful. I get to the hotel. The hotel is fascinating, and I'm going to show you a couple of brief snippets. This is my hotel room. There you go, lovely double bed. Beautiful. Little chair for sitting, and oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? The smallest television I have ever seen in my life. And let me show you for scale. This is because I kept trying to take pictures of it because I was like, I have to show somebody how small this television is, but it doesn't show scale. You have to put it next to something. So I was like, all right, let me take my shoe off. Here is my shoe, and this is the scale of this TV. I think it was I want to say it was 15 inches or something. It's just like, why? Why is that here? Didn't watch it, but thought it was funny. That's it. Off to bed, up at 6:30 the next morning. So I'm up at 6:30 the next morning, and I head to the airport, and I pick the band up, and it's largely uneventful. They don't shout at me, which is nice. There will be nothing bad to say about this band the entire video. They're lovely. Let's just get that out the way. Because it's so early, they've flown overnight. They're hungry. They're a hungry group. So we drive to a nearby rest stop, which has a Wetherspoons. If you don't know what a Wetherspoons is, it is kind of like a chain pub. It's cheap and cheerful, and it's fine. It's very mid. So we get there and we order breakfast, and two of the guys, they go up to the counter and they're like, hey, you know what? We've just landed in England. Let's have a Guinness. And they're immediately rebuffed by the bar staff, who is like, I'm sorry, but we don't serve alcohol until 9 a.m. And it turns out that it's 8 a.m. It's 8 a.m. and they're trying to buy a Guinness. And the whole pub laughs. It is a beautifully charming introduction to the tour. They just get a coffee, same consistency, I guess. This first day is, aside from the snafu at the Wetherspoons, largely uneventful. They've booked a hotel back in Leeds, 4 hours north of where we're at right now. So we do a drive. It's fine. I drop them off at a hotel, and it's all very chill. They're staying there for 2 nights. Super easy. No show this day. However, when I get back into the van and I turn the engine on, the engine management light comes on. So I'm just like, oh, pretty sure that shouldn't be on. So I ring the person who I've hired the van off, and I'm like, hey, the engine management light's on. And he's like, oh, is it driving okay? So I'm like, yeah, seems to be driving fine. And so he just says, oh, well, it's probably fine then. And I'm like, but is there anything we can do? I'm in Leeds anyway. The van is from Leeds. Can we do something? So he says, oh, well, okay, I can book it into a garage, and they can run a diagnostic tool. They can see, if it's giving a specific error message and if it's anything to be concerned about. So I'm like, cool, sounds good. I take it to the garage and I wait a little bit, and they run the tool, and they're just like, yeah, it doesn't seem like anything specifically is coming up that you should be worried about. So if it's driving fine, just go for it. And I'm like, okay, I guess. I'm sure that won't come back to haunt me. Day 3 is the first show of the tour, and it's in Manchester. Manchester is my least favorite city in the UK. Do not at me. Honestly, perfect first day of a tour. Everything goes to plan. We're there early. The merch is shown up. All the gear works. It's going smoothly. The only slight stress for me this day was we weren't able to set up the merch until 6 p.m. and the doors would open at 7:30 p.m. So I had an hour 30, which I thought would be fine. But my merch manager's out there. You got to deal with a bunch of boxes just landed on your doorstep. An hour and a half is cutting it fine. Because I essentially have to unpack and count and organize and display. And so before I know it, I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, there's a line of people behind me. What time is it? And I look at my watch and it's 7:30. I'm like, oh no. So I have to really sheepishly just be like, hey guys, I need 5-10 minutes. And I kind of rush to serve them. And I'm just hectic, run off my feet for an hour, 2 hours selling merchandise. And I don't get to eat, which is terrible because I love eating. And eventually I get 5 minutes to run out and get some food, and that's fine. That's fine. If that's the worst, is that the worst that's gonna happen in this video? Then hey, we're good. Day 4, we are in Leeds, which is where I live, which is nice, very comfortable, super easy. Again, This is like the epitome of a lovely, wonderful, good tour. Like well prepared, super easy to deal with, shouldn't be any stress. You know what I mean? The only stress is going to come from outside factors. No stress on the actual tour itself. Literally the only things that happened this day were I went to a Dunkin' Donuts to get a coffee and started talking to the guy. And the guy was like, I don't know what it is. Look, just for reference, if you weren't aware, I'm English. I'm British. I've lived here all my life. This is where I'm from. England is my city. But for some reason, I get quite a bit in this country from people with like thick regional accents. I get like, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from Leeds. And they're like, no, you're not. You're from America. But that happens in this Dunkin' Donuts. And the guy is like, no, you're not from Leeds. And I'm like, I am. I live 10 minutes away, my guy. And we get chatting for a bit. And he's like, he's a sweetheart. And then eventually he's just like, hey, do you want a free coffee? I'm like, hell yeah, baby. So after I order my crazy, like some kind of monster Halloween frappe special, he gives me like an additional iced latte. Picture for proof. The only other thing of note on this day was the hotel that we stayed at had a copy of the Lost Encyclopedia on their bookshelf. Glued down. Couldn't even read it. Day 5, and I honestly, again, like nothing really to report. We're headed down to Brighton, which is the longest drive on the tour, which isn't saying a lot because it's maybe like a 5-hour drive we have that day from Leeds to Brighton, and it's a super chill show, like no stress. It's actually like right on the seafront. Brighton's a seaside town, so like you look out the window of the venue, lovely view of the sea. I get to go for a nice walk. It's a nice day, a lovely seafront walk. Yeah, like really, really nothing to complain about. Everything is going smoothly. Too smoothly. Day 6, and we're in London. And if you've ever done a UK tour, I mean, you can assume, it's the capital of the country. The London show is usually the most stressful day of a tour because it's a busy city. Usually logistics are a nightmare. It's stressful. It's hectic. But this one is, well, we'll get into it. Just for reference, the drive from our hotel to the venue is 16 miles. And how long do you think that Google told us that would take? 1 hour, 15 minutes. London, we make it about 30 minutes outside of the venue, and a strange error message comes on. It's not the engine management light, but what it is it pops up and it says something like error, AdBlue, engine will not start. Which is not a message that you like to see at any point, but especially not if you are in central London. So I'm a bit panicked, but I shout to the back and I'm like, hey guys, I don't know anything about AdBlue, by the way. The vehicle that I own and drive does not have it. It's too old. So I'm like, hey guys, any idea about this? And then a couple of the guys are not very stressed and they're just like, oh, you just need to refill the AdBlue, this down here. It's just like a liquid. And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll route us to a garage. We can buy some. Super easy. No stress. The van runs fine, but it's just as soon as the engine stops, it can't be started again until this error is resolved. So I head over and I pick up some AdBlue. I pick up about 5 liters and I pour it in and cool. We're like, okay, cool. Let's try and start it. Same error message. Doesn't start. One of the other people is like, oh, it says here that if it's run out, if it's empty, you need to put at least 6 liters in. It's like, well, that's an awkward number, isn't it? But okay. Back to the store, I pick up another 5 liters and I pour it in. I have an immediate concern because I get to about 3/4 of the way through this and it overflows, as in the tank is full. So somebody was like, oh, this should have an 18-liter tank. So I'm like, this means that the AdBlue was never empty. It was just half full. So I'm like, that's concerning. So we try and start the engine again and same error message. Luckily, we've stopped at a garage, an auto shop. So I go over and I'm just in my most sheepish, polite manner. I'm just like, hey, would you mind, you got a diagnostic tool there. It looks real nice. Would you mind just giving this a quick scan and maybe we can see what the problem is? Maybe it just needs to be reset. Because our train of thought is we've refilled it, but maybe it just doesn't recognize it. So maybe it just needs to be cleared and it needs to run through the system, blah, blah, blah. You know, intelligent thoughts. And luckily that the staff there are pretty chill. And he's like, okay, I'll send someone over. And they clear the error message and they're like, cool, that's it. And we're like, nothing else is wrong? I'm like, no, that's fine. But so I'm like, okay, get back in the van. Van starts and we make it to the show. The show is cool. There we go. Look at them there. Lovely bunch of lads. Also, I like how after the show, there was the I Love Reggaeton 6th anniversary, which we experienced a bit of. And so after the show, we don't want to stay in London because it's hectic and stressful. So we drive like an hour. And then after about 30 minutes of driving, the error message comes back, which is cool. So this is just an immediate freak out because I'm just like, oh no, what is going to happen? And we're getting back to the hotel at like 1:30 as well. So I'm just like, I don't want to deal with this right now. So I get on the phone to the breakdown people and I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. And they're like, the guy starts and he's like, okay, well, we're having delays. So our guy will be with you in like 3-4 hours. And I'm just like, hey, let me stop you right there. It's like 1:30 a.m. now. I'm going to bed. Please send them out at like 9 a.m. And he's like, okay, chill. And that's that. We go to bed and I await the morning. Day 7, October the 1st. Ooh. And the spookiest thing that I'm going to experience is van failure. Anyway, it's like 8:45 and my alarm goes off and I actually get a call. The guy's early. The guy's like already here. He's prompt. Wonderful. It's Sunday morning as well. Like, my guy. Okay, whatever. So I get to the van. It's like 8:50 a.m. or something. The guy's pretty funny. He does just the same thing the last guy did, which is basically he clears the fault. And he's just like, yeah, I don't see any problems with it. So, like, I don't really know what's going on. But, like, I've cleared the fault and it should be fine to drive. And I'm just like, okay, well, is it not just going to keep doing it? And he's like, yeah, probably. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I just have to keep ringing somebody? And he's like, kind of, yeah. And I'm like, oh, that sounds awful. And he also a fun conversation is he explains to me what AdBlue is and what it does. And so what it does is I believe it helps with like fumes, like exhaust fumes. It mixes with diesel and it makes the fumes kind of nicer. But when he described me what it was, his specific phrasing was, oh yeah, it's like, I think it was ionized water and it's pig's piss. Pig's piss. Okay. I don't know how you mass manufacture that, but you know what? I'm not going to try and overthink it. The van is running, so that's fine. Let's go to Bristol. Last show of the tour. We're actually up pretty early, so we actually have time to go and grab some, like, a nice sit-down breakfast. So that's what the plan is. We head to a small town not too far away, and the parking situation is a bit of a nightmare, and I've already grabbed some breakfast because I've been up so early. I mean, I say 8:45 is so early. It's tour, man. All right, get on my clock. But anyway, the parking situation is kind of a nightmare. So I just offered to sit with the van. I'm just like, I'll just sit with the van so we don't get a ticket. You guys go have a nice breakfast. It's fine. And I sit in the van in this like little car park. And I'm just like watching. I'm catching up on my stories, you know. I'm watching some YouTube. I'm eating my porridge. And I'm parked next to this like little black car. And after like, I don't know, 20 minutes or something, the owner of this little black car comes back. And it's not like I'm parked. Like, there's plenty of space for that car to get out. Let's just say that. But it's two old ladies, and they get in the car, and they start to back out. And I have a feeling, and I hear it. I not only have the feeling, I then hear it and feel it, which is that their car like scrapes along the side of the van, and I'm just like, is this happening? So I get out because I see she's like she pulls like back into the space. She pulls like back into the space, and she like rights herself and is about to pull off. And I just get out and I stand in front of the car and I'm just like, hey, so you just hit my van. And this old lady like looks me dead in the eyes and says without blinking, no, I didn't. And I'm just like, you did? I felt it. You absolutely did. So I'm just like, cool, nice lying. So I stand in front of her and I like take a picture of the license plate. I have the picture. I part of me wants to post it over here and be like, this is her, but like I can't do that. That's not cool. Luckily, there's no damage to the van. I think she scraped like the plastic bumper and didn't really leave an imprint. It was a black car, so like no further action is taken, but like, what an interaction. Very cool. Anyway, van starts. We get halfway to Bristol and the error message comes back on because of course it does. So I'm like, okay, cool. We have like this stressful load in because there isn't parking at the venue. So I have to like leave the engine running whilst we get all the gear out. I'm just like, if it stops working, we're stuck here. But luckily it doesn't. The engine doesn't turn off. We park around the corner and I call the tech to come out and have another look and get us started again. Just as an ahead for what the next day entails. So the next day basically involves me dropping them off at the airport, then driving like 4 hours to go and drop off the gear, then driving like another hour 30 to go drop off the van. In between, you know, I'd love to take some breaks, get some coffees, go to the bathroom, whatever, you know, things, just VTuber things. So I'm like, there's got to be something I can do. So I have a think and I'm just like, well, if clearing the error message is like allowing me to keep driving, maybe I can pick up a cheap diagnostic tool and maybe that'll work. So I have a quick search and I see a couple of options and I'm like, oh, this place is like a 5-minute walk. It has a cheap one. I go and I pick it up and I'm like, okay, well, maybe this will work. But I don't want to use it before the tech shows up because I need the tech to look at the error message. I need him to like, I want this guy to like really have a deep dive. He's on his diagnostic computer for a while and he's just like, I think it's the pump. I think it's the pressure. This is what it is. However, without taking it into an actual garage, all you can really do is the reset. So I ask him, will this tool that I've bought do the same thing that your tool does? Even though it is like thousands of pounds cheaper, I'm sure. And he's not sure. He's like, I don't know. Probably, but I don't know. So there's that tension. And I'm like, okay. But he says, it'll get you to your hotel tonight. And then once the light comes on, you can try it. And if it doesn't work, you're just going to have to call us 7 times tomorrow. Which I don't want to do that in any way, shape, or form. But he's super helpful. And I have the tool. We have options. Potentially. The show is fine. Again, there are no issues with the actual shows or the band or anything like that. It's just the van. It's just the van on this one. We leave the show, we're packed up, last night of tour, so you know, you got your emotional goodbyes to the supports. It takes a bit longer to get out. And I have this, bong, the end of tour photo. I am one of these people, but who? You will never know. This is the end of tour. Look at these sweethearts. Look, what a bunch of sweethearts. Tour goes swimmingly. There's no issues with the tour. However, the van. So again, we have like an hour after the show to drive to our hotel, and we get about 30 minutes out. The error message comes back on. That's expected. We pull into our hotel, and it's the moment of truth. There's a nervous tension in the air as we plug this cheap, nasty diagnostic tool into the van to see if it will clear the error message. And so one of the guys plugs it in, and I'm sat tentatively at the wheel. I turn the key. He presses some buttons. He asks me the question. It's cleared. It's cleared. It clears the error message. It works. This cheap, like, nasty tool is fit for purpose. So it means that I can actually take breaks tomorrow. This is a glorious day. And so, yeah, that's pretty much the tour from then on. We're up early. I drop them at the airport, and that's fine. I don't stop the engine because I don't, even if this thing does work, I don't want to risk breaking down at like in an airport drop-off zone and getting fined, you know, £1 million. I make my way back up to drop the gear off. I stop a couple times, and every time I like plug the thing in to reset it, there's the same nervous tension as like, maybe it won't work this time. But it does. It keeps working. We keep winning. We stay winning. I drop the gear off. I drop the van off. I get home to bed, and that's that. That's this tour. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, I have a bunch of other videos on the channel where I have specific conversations with musicians about their tour stories. I have my own individual tour stories about previous tours, and I'm going to try and do this for every tour that I've been on. Just have a quick little chat. Maybe it's good. Maybe there's no bad news at all, or maybe the van keeps breaking every day. I've been Punk Brock, and thank you.